right. So I've been thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we add a? We've been doing this for a couple,
This is
episodes now.
episode 4.
We've been doing this for a couple episodes now,
Yeah.
and we only have 2 rules.
Yeah. The rule number 1 is that it's going to be about an hour.
About an hour.
That's a hard and fast rule.
That's a hard and fast-ish rule.
That's right. That's right. And then number 2 is that we're allowed to swear.
We're allowed to swear.
We
2
can
rules.
We can do that.
But we're on episode 4.
Is it time to add a third rule?
Do you have a third rule in mind, Chad?
I mean, listen, man, freedom's one of my core values.
Wow.
I'm
Cop out.
Do you have any idea for a third rule?
So if you're not watching this, that's a good thing. But I'm wearing the same shirt as last time.
Oof.
And so I was thinking that a rule should be that we have to wear the same shirts every time.
No,
you don't like that? All right,
no.
I tried.
Well, I think actually you're breaking the rule I would propose, which is you can't wear the same shirt.
Repeat shirts.
Is that? But I also don't feel strongly about it, man.
All right, fine.
We'll go with 2 rules for
We'll
now.
go with 2 rules. If a third one comes up organically, we'll go with it.
But shirt related or non-shirt related.
If it feels right, we'll go with it.
Okay.
I'm not leaving the shirt thing out. Fine.
I can buy into this.
Yes.
I like
Cool.
it.
All right. It's game
So welcome to the Morning Huddle Construction Show. This is the Well Built series, episode 4, and I'm Chad Prinky, and
I'm Matt Verderamo.
we are a couple of guys
Just a couple of dudes.
Just a couple of dudes that love working with construction companies and helping construction companies to be their very best. And one of the things that we really thought would be a great thing to do, and so far the feedback has not sucked, is to get together periodically and just really talk about stuff that we're passionate about, the stuff that we see and hear and think about a lot, and kind of do this long form, an hour-ish kind of program, that is a variation from the normal Morning Huddle show, which is short form interviews, and into Matt and I really just delving into some topics very deeply. There are 4 different elements. The first element is complete. We've checked in. Wait, no, we haven't really checked. We still got to check in. We got to check in.
Yeah.
The second thing that we do is we get into a topic where we're just educating a little bit, talking about stuff that we've been learning about, stuff that we've either just been learning about or been learning about our whole lives or whatever, right? Anywhere in between, and we'll talk about that. And today that topic is, why do employees leave for money, and why do they leave and why do they stay?
Yep.
And then we have a segment called XVY, where we take opposite sides of an argument to the best of our ability, and we fight. I fight.
I listen really well and have good intentions. You want to win. You're making me want to win more and more each week.
That's the goal.
Which is is that the goal?
I mean, until you're actually a threat.
Yeah.
I'm joking. And then the fourth thing we do is we talk about the books that we're reading.
Yes.
Because we're always reading something, and the cool things that we're reading help us to share with our audience who may be voracious readers themselves or just looking for that next thing to pick up. And have some direction on that. And by the way, not everything that we're reading is awesome.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Totally. Yeah. And I'll probably tell you a story about why we're talking about whatever we're talking about at a certain time, because we're reading something that's got it hot on our minds.
Totally. So let's check in, man. How you been?
I am doing great.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Been such a stinking fun couple of weeks. We went up to New York to see a new client last week. You and I taking the train. That was a great day. I was down in Alabama with a new client, do some strategic planning and, retreat session and some sales and BD planning and strategy. And it is just so darn fun. And I feel like we're so lucky that we just get to deal with such good people all the time in the industry, forward-thinking people that just want to do right by the industry and then make some money along the way because they're doing the right stuff.
Totally, man. It's actually I write about it in the book where there are. I think two types of, if you take a pie of 100% of contractors, in the book I use a pyramid, you'll understand why. But if you looked at 100% of contractors, you can draw a line right down the middle, or even a little larger, and just say, here's a group of contractors that actually aren't trying to get better. They don't really care about running a good company.
Totally.
They're just trying to make a living. They're eking it out, and
which we can appreciate.
Totally, man. Like, it's not everybody's got to have a vision to build a thing, but they can't be surprised with the problems that they experience when they have that company, right? Oh, we can't get paid. Yeah, I got it. What have you tried to fix that?
Right.
And all these different types of things that, so I think that really is a large group of people. And by the way, that can change, right? They can wake up one morning and be like, damn it, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get up off my ass and do something. So that happens. I think to a lot of them for periods of time. It's just whether or not they sustain that.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side that are really trying to get better. And the other side that's really trying to get better is the only side we get to work with.
Yep.
And so we only have awesome customers.
Well said.
Right?
Well said. No, well said. You're right. They're all, it's like having a trainer in the gym. We can tell you all the lifts to do and the food to eat and everything. If you don't want to lift and eat well, then there's nothing we can do for you, because you're going to dig in your heels and not lift. So you're not going to get stronger.
Yeah, we only work with motivated people, and nobody's been forced to be there. Now, I can't say that for every individual we work with.
Right.
The companies are awesome.
They're willing participants.
There are some individuals who are hostages in the process, right? Who are, but when you're doing all this kind of fun work, and particularly as you get to know, you're getting acquainted with new businesses. If you love business and you love construction, it's just like a kid in a candy store. It's the coolest feeling.
Random question outside of checking in, but I think it gets us both excited. Like, even outside of like social media, like, how many people do you think we're impacting or touching on a yearly basis? Just with the client work that we do.
Just with client work. Having nothing to do with social media.
Nothing to do with social media.
Podcasting
No, because that stuff, I mean,
I hope so many. I think we probably, so let's go through it this way. Let's say our average client has about 150 employees. Let's say we're working with 50 companies at any given moment, and that's today. As we're next year it's 100, the next year it's 200, whatever.
Because we also have ambitious growth goals, by the way.
We do. We're very ambitious. But so you're probably way better at math than I am. But I would say let's say we're impacting, at least directly impacting 50% of those employees, right? So 750 times 5 is I feel like Howard Stern. Can I walk you through the math?
I have rule number 3.
Oh God,
we don't do complex math in our head.
Yeah. We don't do.
Okay, so we're gonna give you an about
times 5 is
before. Okay.
Still, it's a good rule, and I'll go with the rule. But in this particular case, I think without a calculator, I can tell you it is
750.
750, Matt. On the low end of what I think we impact if you're working with, and these are people that like know us.
Yeah. We may know their first name. Yeah.
Some of them don't thank us. And I'll be direct with you, man. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for 16 years. I've had some people, come up and be like, things were better before you were here, goddammit, type of thing. And those interactions, they're hard for me, because I put everything I have into the work, but I have to, it's two thoughts go on in my mind at the same time. After I have like the first reaction, which is like, oh my God, I'm terrible. The second reaction, oh, these guys are just effing assholes, right? Right. And then my third reaction, which is the better, healthier one, is like, there's probably something for me to learn inside that. And I think on balance, things are better than not.
You're gonna pay a little bit of a tax for
the guy that didn't get selected for that promotion, for the for the person who had that we forced into a really difficult conversation with their boss because their boss was unhappy with them. That, you know,
Totally.
usually massive progress and really good things happen as a result of those conversations, but every now and again you get the person who, you know, resent you for it. And yeah, like I cannot, I'm not capable of that not hurting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like,
No, I can appreciate that, and it's really interesting because that it's a similar. I think you know me by now, but
yeah,
it's a similar kind of thought process. But yeah, but when I think about the fact that we get to impact hundreds, if not thousands,
yeah,
without social media, just to direct clients every year, I mean, geez, that just it gets me so excited. You know,
same.
it just makes me really happy. So I am doing good. Thank you for asking. And may I ask, how are you doing, Chad Prinky?
I am so good. Very I'm very excited for the final, like the actual launch of Well Built that is
Yes.
happening as we're recording. And it's like it's on. And so the I can't even express the amount of um I don't know what the right even word is, Matt. Like I've been very I think I might actually know what the term humbled means. I've always thought it was kind of bullshit, the term humbled. You know, oh, I was humbled by winning the Super Bowl, or I was humbled
Right.
by. I'm like, shut up. You weren't
Yeah.
humbled. You were like winning the Super Bowl. That's the least. That's the time that you shouldn't be humble. But I actually, you know, I was at a get together with family and friends, and all these people who I've known for years are like, oh my god, man, that's incredible. Yeah, blah 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 blah. And I was just so embarrassed. I was and
Wow.
maybe that's what humbled means. Like I'm just like, no, I don't. It's not. I'm not that. Trust me,
Right.
it's
Wow.
not that good.
Right.
You
You'd
know,
hate it. Yeah. Right.
totally.
Right.
A
I
buddy
hate
of mine.
myself for writing
I got
it.
a buddy of mine who sent me a picture. Like you're right. He's like, I bought the book, and he's like, it better not suck. I'm like, it probably does. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Ha ha ha. We're all joking. This is funny.
Maybe it does. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
this book could suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you know it's coming out that it actually doesn't suck,
Yeah.
which is really weird
Yeah.
because it's so
Yeah.
strange, Matt. Like in my mind, I've been totally preparing for people to be like, well, for a first book, it was average at best, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, but no, the feedback has just been awesome. So I've got such neat stuff going on that front. So yeah, and I have such a supportive family, you know, and in this overall feeling like, you know, that my wife and kids kind of think I'm cool,
Yeah.
which is
Wow. You finally did it.
I finally did. I made it for this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for this
What
week.
have you
And
done for me lately?
the oldest is
Dad?
12.
Yeah.
In 1 year, I'm a loser. That's what
Yeah.
I hear.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
and if I remember correctly, that's about right. That math holds.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Right, 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 right. Well, yeah, we'll have to save your childhood stories for a different time, but that's a different
is
podcast. Yeah,
totally a different
yeah.
I've got several.
We were a
goodies.
troublemaker.
I was a big troublemaker. Yeah, man.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of gratitude wrapped up in that.
There is.
Humility.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's that feeling of just like I don't deserve all the praise.
Yeah,
And uh but I really it feels very nice.
yeah.
It's a very nice feeling.
Well,
Even the embarrassment is nice, you know.
well, congratulations, and remind the people what the book's called so that they can go check it out.
So it's called Well Built: How the Top 2% of Construction Contractors Create Superior Value, Profits, and Excellence. And it is really my attempt to bring some language and structure to the things that I watch the top performing contractors that I've ever had the ability to be around, and I really have had the ability to be around some incredible
Yeah,
construction companies. I mean, that the top names in their spaces in a lot of trades, and as general contractors, you know, several of the top 25 general contractors up close and personal, and seeing how they work. And not and that's just on size alone, right? Like we could talk about, you know, all these mid-sized contractors that are making just
doing
insane
amazing
profits, and you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, being crazy generous, and you know, all those types of things. It's my attempt to bring order and language to uh, what they do, and it really is in a book form what we are all about, helping companies to do. But just understand, like, it's not a book full of my ideas as much as it's a book full of my attempt to order what is out there happening. It's not like this is what Well Built says you should do. It's like this is what the top 2% of contractors are doing. Well Built has worked with them, and what Well Built's doing is just putting it into a book called Well Built, right? That you can emulate these well built construction companies.
That is amazing. And whether you're a business owner, it's for you. If you're a high potential employee, it's for you. If you're running a department, it's for you. And you can get it on Amazon. Just search the name, and I highly recommend it. And I'm not just saying that because I get paid by the man who wrote it. It's a very, very good book, and it's gonna be a part of our drive to help change the industry for the better. And
Yeah,
it's gonna be central to that. So.
Even if nobody buys it, it's guiding and they already have. It's already like a #1 new release, and it's pretty crazy. But even if no more people buy it, even though so many people, way more people than I thought would have bought it, and only 30 of those books are mine, by the way. I've bought 30 of the 1,000 or so books that we've sold, right? And the book isn't even out at the time of this, which is amazing. You sell 1,000 books before it comes out. It's a pretty neat feeling.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, something like if Stephen King would be like, jumping off a cliff, like, oh no,
it's all relative, my friend.
It's not about selling a bunch of books, it's about reaching as many people in the construction industry. And I would say 1,000 construction brains.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
With the exception of like my mom and dad.
Yeah.
And my buddy Brian.
Yeah.
Right.
They get a signed copy, because they're just,
they bought it.
They bought it.
They bought it because they want to support the kid.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, man. Yeah.
I think Stephen King's mom doesn't buy his books, Shaq.
I hope Stephen King's mom is still around. If she is, she's a trooper.
Yeah. Oh, well, good. I'm happy for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So let's get into today's topic. We want to talk about why employees stay, why employees go, what role money plays in the whole thing. Do employees really leave for money? So, we've both been employees, right? That we've had that experience. You're an employee today.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. Yeah, man. I've been an employee.
I really don't think of you like that, by the way, which is a weird reality. I was just like, you're not anymore, are you? Right. Yeah. Oh, shit. Right. Yeah. Right, maybe you kind of are.
Yeah.
But, so
maybe you kind of are. Like that. Yes, Chad.
Yeah, very much. So what has been your experience? I'll just cut right to the chase. What role does money play in the picture? Do you leave for more money? Do you leave when it's not enough money? Like, what role does money play in an employee mindset?
To say that money doesn't play a role is foolish.
Yeah.
It's similar to when we're talking about winning work. Yeah, relationships matter, but yeah, competitive price matters too.
Yeah.
So being paid a competitive compensation range totally matters.
Are you negotiating with me right now on the air?
That's the next topic. Actually, that's the debate. The debate for today is, does Matt get paid enough?
Quick answer.
Tune in to find out more. Yeah, right. Yeah, Chad's anchoring at no. So I got some work to do on that. But I mean, and ultimately, does money play a factor? Absolutely. Now, this I know for a fact is when you are an employee, and I know this from personal experience, I know this from talking to a couple of people in construction companies that have left recently, and you are going to talk to your boss about the story as to why you are leaving. It is rare for that story to be because you didn't listen to me and because you didn't show that I had a compelling career path here in the future.
Yeah.
And so when I hear bosses and I hear that side of it a lot, they go, well, he or she left for money.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, how do you know that? And they say, well, that's what they told me. My first reaction is always, okay, that could be true.
Yeah.
But why would they tell you that you're not a great leader?
Right.
Why would they rub your nose in it as you're walking out the door? And so I think at the end of the day, do employees leave for money? Absolutely. especially let's leave some of that other stuff off the table. Maybe you are a perfectly run company and they're just not a cultural fit. That might be an area where they just genuinely leave for money. They're not having a bad experience, right? Like, let's talk about that first, of when it may be true that that it's just not right for them, so they leave. I think that's true. I think it's also the case when you could be doing everything perfectly fine as a company and the person's just short-sighted. Sometimes that can be a challenge for people. And money is a motivating factor behind short-sighted decisions, especially in the employment world. Uh, and the last thought that comes to mind on that is, if you aren't just in general as a company differentiating yourself from your competition, and one of your employees leaves for your competition, they're going to see you two as being the exact same, which is going to see them, as a new title, or this more money of just being like that thing that just pushes them over the edge because they're not seeing a difference anyway. What do you have to add or respond to on any
I
of
think
that?
that's all excellent stuff, and I look at money the way I think about money from a comp standpoint, and what role it plays in an employee staying or going, is that it's the tiebreaker. Money is the tiebreaker. If somebody is conflicted, right? If somebody is conflicted, if they're feeling in some way like the grass is greener, if they're feeling in some way like they're unhappy in their current role with their current company for any number of reasons, money will become a big factor. It'll become a significant factor. And in those situations, that's when I think people actually do leave, go with me, for money. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think that's so there are really, really interesting studies. Man, I'm going to go a little deep here. There are really interesting studies that come out, and that came out just after, right, the Great Resignation.
Yep.
Where the the employee says they are leaving for money.
Yep.
Something like 75% of the time. It's up there. It's more than 2/3, and maybe not quite 3/4 of the time. That's why they say they're leaving. That's reported by the companies. The employees are then polled privately, why did you leave? And that number drops substantially from 75% for money to like 52% for money, which means at least a quarter of people are aware that they're lying to their owners. And my wife was one of these, by the way. At one point, she used the old leaving for money excuse when she was really running from a toxic environment.
Yeah.
And I was like, stop it, tell the truth. And she's like, we're just wired different. And I'm like, that is just so true.
Yeah. Right. This is a good representation of that fact.
This is evidence. And so I believe that 50% is still way overblown. Because I think that a lot of people haven't really self-actualized that they're not leaving for money.
Right.
That they're actually leaving, that the money was an enticement, a tiebreaker that drew them away. But what they were really leaving was a circumstance. And go ahead, please.
Well, so if I'm hearing you right, in some situations, there's people think that they're leaving for money.
Yeah,
and there's actually more to it than that.
Totally. And this is from my personal experience, anecdotally, of working with lots and lots of, I don't know, Matt, 1,000 individuals on some personal level, like where I've actually talked to them about these. I mean, it's a lot, man. It's been a long freaking time.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Yeah.
And and talking to these people, they'll say, yeah, I mean, I just got a deal I had to take. Okay, so here's the circumstance. I'm gonna play it really, really real with you for a minute here on the I'll be a little bit behind the scenes, but it's true. So here's the scenario. Person X, right? Let's call her Jennifer. Jen gives her 2 weeks notice. The executive over top of Jen's department or the owner of the company, depending, does not want to lose Jen. They call me and they say, dude, Jen just gave her 2 weeks. What do I do? What, like this sucks, right? What are we going to do?
Totally.
And I say, you want me to try to save her? That's what I say, right? Because what I find is that oftentimes if we can just get candid discussion out there, we'll get to some root causes and when there actually is something salvageable. And there are situations where, and when I say situation, not 1,000, but this has happened many dozens of times, maybe over 100 times, where I've been brought in for the save. And I actually have a decent track record at the save.
I would imagine that.
Yeah, I have a decent track record at the save. And the save is, hey, Jen, understand you're going, you've put in your 2 weeks, you're moving in a different direction. Overall, the company just wants you to be happy and is cheering for you to, do whatever your next thing is, if it really shouldn't be here. But I'd really love to get to some root causes on like what's behind it. And Jen will tell me, I just got just an awesome offer, just like a really, really great offer. And I'll say, oh my gosh, tell me about it. Tell me about the offer. And then Jen has a combination of really uncomfortable, radically candid conversation with me, which we have to talk about sometime, but not right now.
Yeah.
And lying to me. It's just super common. Like, oh, I'm getting, and I can always tell when they're lying.
Yeah.
It's like, and they're doubling my salary. I'm like, oh wow, I couldn't blame you for leaving.
Yeah.
Right, but that's not ever the case. Yeah, you just peel away a few layers and you can get them. The key is to not make them feel really stupid whenever you call them out on their lie, and just pretend like you never heard their lie and just keep going. So
there's some negotiation stuff in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jen's lying. She's calling it negotiating, but she's just lying. Right?
Yeah.
And
she probably doesn't have bad intentions, but
no, never. No, definitely not. I'm not even judging Jen.
Exactly.
I'm just calling lying what it is.
Right.
It is being untrue.
Right.
It's lying. So anyway, in that conversation, we'll uncover that what's really going on is she's been feeling disempowered. She used to be doing X, and then they hired somebody, and that person all of a sudden wouldn't let her do X anymore. And then new rules started to present themselves, and she lost a sense of significance in her job. And she didn't feel, now she felt like she had a new boss to report to her. I'm making up a story, okay? But ultimately what
whatever
I find
it is.
Yes, and what I find is here's the list in order that again, anecdotally, but my personal experience with this. Number one real reason, boss. That is the number one real reason. My boss is a douchebag.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They are in some way, shape, or form uncool.
Yeah.
They're making my life less awesome.
Right.
And this is really hard for growing construction companies, right? Growing contractors have to be able to entrust people that aren't them to lead people. And so it's, so I'm the owner. I used to be everybody's boss, and now I have a layer, and other people are other people's boss. And now there's another layer underneath them, and there are more bosses. And if you're not awesome at creating great bosses, you're going to have a lot of people quit, tell you it's because of money. Even themselves think it's because of money. But the truth is they have a shitty boss.
And how many times in one of our boot camps or leadership development programs have we heard from construction managers and leaders that it's the first time they've ever gotten any kind of formal management or leadership training?
Totally. And by the way, and I mean this really, training isn't the be all end all either, man. Like training is just, it's one little environment. There's so much that don't convince yourself that I just need to send my manager to training and everything's going to be okay. No, it's not.
Yeah.
They have to have the right DNA. If you really want to know whether you should send somebody to training, send them over to us. We will meet with them and interview them. And it'll just be super awkward when they're like, so why did I meet with the Wellboat guys? Oh, no reason.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because you'll ask us and be like, should I invest in this person? We'll be like, no.
Yeah.
Don't invest in this person. Replace this person. Get this person. Because there are people that aren't cut out for it.
Yeah.
Maybe ever, but certainly at certain phases in their lives.
And certain phases of the business, depending on what the business needs and the kind of person you need in that position at that moment.
Totally. So that's the
Yeah.
number one reason. Number one reason people really leave is they have a crappy boss. They and they that creates just negative vibes. You ever worked? I'm not asking you. I'm asking our audience, right? Have you ever worked for somebody that you didn't respect? Have you ever worked for somebody that you did not think upheld a standard that you would hold yourself to, right? Did you ever work for somebody that doesn't know about what you do, what you know about what you do, and they're in charge of telling you what to do with it?
Right.
All of these are things that suck. And it's
Totally.
not always the boss's fault, right? As you already pointed out, it's oftentimes the company's fault. They're not preparing these people,
Right.
right? But also put yourself in the owner's shoes, man. The company's just growing fast. They're trying to keep up with everything, and people get promoted, and they're like, I gotta, and you have to get comfortable with breaking some eggs. That's real.
Yeah.
You have to be like, not everybody's gonna have a perfect experience, but yeah, you gotta try.
Well, and that's it. There's so much more we can talk about with, but that's why the conversation is so important. This honest, radical, candid conversation is so important because crap is going to come up. Can
Well,
you
yeah,
talk about it?
yeah, and
And I think number one with a bad boss, you can't talk about it. That's one of the things with a bad boss that you can't do.
yes, yep. So number two reason is they have aspirations that aren't being met. There's they don't feel like they're on a growth path. They don't feel like they have the right to perform some role that they really want to perform. I mean, I've heard a lot of times, there's somebody above me, and that person would have to die, right? Kind of thing for me to end up getting a promotion into that role. So I'll never get there, type of thing.
Totally.
So that's the number two reason. And when I look at that, usually what's also connected with that, Matt, is the company doesn't have growth goals. The company's not, or they're not conveying them. Right?
Yeah, or they're not communicated throughout the organization.
Exactly. And so these people can't picture themselves in the future in the job they really want to have. There's, people they do have the ability to delay gratification and, put themselves and like, short-term pain is not the end of the world if people truly believe in the long-term payoff, but they have to be able to believe it. So that's number two. That's what I've experienced. Number three is an environment where they feel like things are unfair. Boy, that's a really interesting one because this is rarely objectively true. But people get this feeling like this is unfair. What's unfair? Jill, she works from home 3 days a week. I can't. Right? I don't know why. He was just hired, and I put myself in for that job. Nobody told me. They feel like something's unfair. Usually, this one comes down to just really crappy communication from the company on like, here's our work from home policy. Or hey, this is how our interview process is going to go for this hire. I didn't get an opportunity to apply for that job. They just brought somebody in from the outside. How dare they? Right? Just all these feelings of fairness. And usually I find that the companies aren't acting unfairly per se. Usually.
Totally.
Instead, it's just they have failed to communicate about it. And in the absence of information, people are making up stories to fill in the gaps.
Totally.
And their story is, this is unfair. And they think it's bad boss, but it's actually not necessarily bad boss. It's like bad communication or whatever else. Right. So that's the third reason. And then the last one is just, and this one is, I've never been able to recover this one. I've been able to save all the previous three, like, and do pretty well. When the truth is, it should have been saved. Like they had a misconception, they need to work through it. There's we just need to pull these people together and have them sorted out, kind of thing. But the fourth one is toxicity, and those are the ones where I always say, no, you're making the right move. And when I say toxicity, it's kind of like a no fault toxicity. It's this just ain't gonna work.
Yeah. Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Maybe you've even tried to have the conversations. It's not happening.
this ain't happening
It ain't working.
with the individual, with the company, with the like. We
Not the
just
right
have.
fit.
You mentioned it, culture, right? Like that culture mismatch. If it ain't there, it ain't there. If that, it's just a toxic dynamic. This is a person that just is constantly, and the earmarks are, it's people who are constantly complaining about the company.
Yeah.
Constantly complaining.
Yeah.
That's somebody that's just not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I don't mean to say you should fire all your complainers. Because in like, far be it for me to tell you what like the appropriate amount of complaining is. I'm just saying, if you ever have the vibe that like all this person does is complain, it could be just it's just mixing two elements that shouldn't mix.
Oil and water.
Yeah.
There's a reality to the fact that you can have a culture that isn't necessarily right for everyone, and it can be a great culture. I think a lot of the times when you get to this position, you're talking about not great cultures where there's a lot of gossip universally and people finally make a decision to leave.
Yep.
But it can totally happen the other way, that it's just not the right fit, and it doesn't make either side bad.
I've watched it so many times, Matt, in particular with our high performing clients, like top performing companies that are growing leaps and bounds all the time, and they're going from small businesses to mid-sized businesses to large market businesses. I've been a part of many of those journeys, and when I see that happen, inevitably somewhere along the line somebody says like, we need to create a bigger tent, or some version of create a bigger tent. We need to be a place that is more accepting of way more people, types of people, different things like this, because how are we going to staff? We can't staff if we can't accept all different types, right? All comers. Look, I am a huge fan of diversity efforts. I'm a huge fan of inclusion efforts. I also know that it's okay for a company to say, we are looking for people who think this way.
Yeah.
Who believe these things, and who want to work in this kind of fashion. And that means sometimes you might need to put growth plans on hold while you staff appropriately.
Yeah.
And that sucks. Nobody likes that. It's like, oh no. But you know what happens? You hire a bunch of people that don't fit, and they either A, change the things that make you great.
Right.
Or B, way more often, just don't fit in and create this toxic dynamic. And everybody's like, why does it feel yucky here?
Yeah, totally. I think that you don't have to be apologetic for who you are as a culture, but you do need to be self-aware of who you are.
Totally.
Makes you more accepting, allows you to have more of those diverse thoughts. Mm-hmm. It also allows you to understand why you might be treating people a certain way, whatever. And if you're self-aware, you don't need to apologize for that.
That's exactly right. Yep. Now, if there's a line where you start saying, well, we only want people who are Mormon and who are white and who are right, you know what I mean? Like, well, that's not okay.
Right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
We're self-aware of
it. We are very self-aware.
Yeah. There's always a line.
There's a line. So it's more. You have to think about it in terms of like behavior, communication. Values. You have to think about it in terms of those types of things. So when I say beliefs, just understand that's what I mean. I don't mean, you have to believe in, Hinduism.
Totally.
Type of thing.
Totally.
Right. I think that's a terrible hiring criteria.
Yeah. Just for the record.
For the record. And nothing against Hinduism. Just all those types of things. So our political predisposition or any of those types of things. Bad hiring. But I watched that too, man.
Yeah.
What we need is more of this. Like, easy does it.
Yeah.
I promise that's not true.
Well, and I think that brings up a good point, which is whether you are trying to retain people or trying to save somebody in these environments, like you've said. And I think one of the things you do really well, and you demonstrated even as you talked about this fictional Jen that you went and had a conversation with, is this ability to have good intentions as a company.
Yeah.
And so when you are in this position where somebody is looking for more money or going somewhere else, have good intentions when you're having that conversation. Maybe you want to keep them, but is it really the right thing for them? And there's something amazing that happens as you go to talk to those people with that mindset, is you actually start seeing it through a different lens, and they might actually be more excited to come back because you've given them that opportunity to choose. And you may also, and this is a beautiful thing too, look at them and say, wow, you really aren't a right fit for here. And that's okay. And thanks for all you did, and let's part our ways cordially.
Yep. I think that's exactly right. And it takes an abundance mindset to do
Yeah,
that. You have to believe that there are plenty of fish in the sea and that that's okay and that people are replaceable. And you also have to, be like human first, not self-interested, but the other interested, which is hard.
totally.
And I'm not awesome at that. Personally, I find that the only way that I'm good at it is by being like really open about like, hey, I'm having a hard time being impartial here because I have a vested interest in. So I like my hack is I just share my bias so that it's not under the surface, but that it's transparent, and that absolves me of like that way I can't be manipulative. It's
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like there's none of those concerns that go on. I'll just put it out there and be like, obviously everything I'm saying has got to come with this tint
yeah.
because I want you to stay.
I'm not seeing clearly because I want you to say.
Correct. And I'm
Maybe
going to do
there's
my
more that I'm
best.
missing, and I might need to understand better. I might need to hear more from you to get it because I just cannot see it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to try my best, and I might fail, but I'm going to do everything I can in this conversation to make this really about what's the best thing for both of us.
Yeah, totally.
You know.
So at the end of the day, you can, yes, employees do leave for more money. There are certain situations. There's also some critical reasons why they aren't leaving for more money. And I think just to put a bow on all of this, do you have any advice for the customer or the construction companies listening about how to avoid
Yeah.
that tiebreaker situation coming up?
Totally. So, put leadership first. That's the first piece of advice is understand just how critical it is in your business to have great bosses. It's just so freaking important. It can't be overstated. So mentor the heck out of that. Train people. Send people to Well Built for training, but only to us. No, I'm joking. But invest in these people, and get them ready for the role. Do your best to be preemptive and think about training people on your team in leadership who are not in leadership roles today and who you have no idea if they'll ever be in leadership roles, but because you know that it'll have a future payoff if they're ever in a leadership role, that you won't have people quitting because their boss sucks.
Right.
That would be number one. Number two is that I would have a future org chart for your business, and I would publish it, and I would communicate about career path options so that people could picture themselves in these future roles and don't leave because they don't see a path. Because and by the way, if you don't have that, right, if you're like, I don't have a future org chart, you need start with a vision. Start with where you're trying to take the business. Ask yourself if the business is going to get here. What are we going to look like? Based on what we look like, let's chart that out and let's start to talk about all the growth opportunities that are going to exist for people. It's a very powerful exercise, and it inspires and aligns people very quickly. And so, good bosses, clear paths for advancement, good communication about decisions so that you don't have the unfair worry. Focus on mastering internal communication. Right? Get really good at that, which does go to good bosses, but it also goes to like good corporate policy.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, work hard to understand who you are as a company, what's your culture, and hire for your culture. Prioritize culture hires so that you just minimize toxicity in the first place. But also, do identify those things about yourself that are maybe like not worth keeping.
Totally.
And that's cool too. Just because you have a culture doesn't mean it's a good one.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And that's the self-awareness aspect that you really got to be willing to look at yourself hard and do that. And I think that fits into that fourth bucket of.
So do I.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I would do, man.
I love it.
You want to fight?
Let's fight.
Yay!
Hey, before we do, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
What's 72 times 48?
We do not do
right,
complex
good,
math.
All right,
We do not do complex.
Good. Just checking if you're listening. All right. We're good. Somebody at home, please let us know what 72 times 48 is because we are not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and we'll give a free book to the first listener. Because there's no way anybody's figuring that one out.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Oh my god.
So what are we fighting about, Matt?
Chad, today.
Matt, get water. Will you
Oh,
please
thank
get
you.
water?
I thought
Poor
about it.
guy. I
Thought
saw
about it
you
like
think
4
about it.
times.
Yeah, I was like,
I
get
know,
water.
it's,
You're like, but we're in the zone. Yeah, water's necessary.
oh my gosh, that was a good gulp.
So can you bring in an executive from outside the company? That's the fight. So, let's pretend that you're a company right now,
Let's pretend I'm an employee. Let's just imagine I'm an employee.
which you're
Okay.
clearly not.
Which I'm clearly not.
We've
Let's go. Let's
established.
just got it. Okay, I'm an employee. Sorry, go ahead. I'm getting in my fighting sass.
I love it. Yeah, very, very aggressive. Yeah. You kind of noticed me.
Yeah.
Like, tamp that down.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, right. I like it a little. It's not my favorite of
We're
yours. Yeah.
So, imagine as a listener, you're somebody, right? You're somebody who's driving down the road right now, listening to this podcast, their favorite podcast, and they're thinking about, this fight in relation to their team. Here's the situation they're in. They've got a department head that is not getting the job done. Call it their head of pre-construction estimating, right? It's not getting the job done. And they really, looking through the ranks, they have nobody else that is qualified to step in and play that role. They're thinking, what do I do? I want to have a good culture. This director of pre-construction or vice president or whatever, right? This person is great, but they're not getting the job done as a leader. I need an executive over top of that group of 40 people. What do I do? And so I will contend, go hire one.
And
What say you, sir?
I will contend that doesn't work most of the time.
Okay.
So my first thought is, do you have a high potential employee who could step into that role? Is this an opportunity for somebody within to demonstrate?
If I said no, what would you say? No, I don't.
What's your expertise what's your what's your expertise as the boss and owner of the business? Of what areas do you normally oversee? Does this fall within your expertise?
Okay, so you're going to give me the job?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Let's pretend like this is in my sweet spot. Yes, I can handle it.
You can handle this?
Yeah, I'm excellent at this, but I shouldn't have to.
How far away is your next high potential employee, or you're just like totally SOL where you don't have anybody who you see being able to fill this role?
Well, and so this is the part where I get a little bit because I'll plead your case for you a little bit because I think people aren't particularly great at gauging high potential. So sometimes you talk to an owner and you're like, do you have anybody? And they're like, no, definitively, right? And it's one of those things like, well, how the hell do you know? Do you know, like,
Totally.
do you have a ruler? Did you like, nope. Like, that's not how we judge. How do you judge? So that would be the first thing that I call that right into question, right? I'm sitting here myself like, so I'm going to say no again, Matt, but
Yeah.
let's pretend I'm right, knowing that I've just given you a little wiggle room that like a lot of times I'm not.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
no, I don't see somebody on the horizon. I don't have that person.
Yeah. Then as I'm sitting there as an employee, considering a new boss showing up and telling me what to do, I'm going to have a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
And man, if they're not like, I'm already have lost trust because the last hire, wasn't any good.
Yeah.
I'm imagining that you're probably already thinking about, man, this person hasn't been a great leader. So maybe you're thinking about what your future is like if you're going to go look for more money somewhere else.
We're in a tiebreaker situation.
Yeah, right. And the last thing you need is some boss showing up who you don't trust. If I'm an employee and my owner comes to me and says, hey, I'm going to be overseeing this for a while. Here's our plan of how we're going to go forward on this. I'm going to be taking over this role. This is part of what I'm going to be doing. We're going to be trying to find the next person to be in this position and start giving them the tools and the competencies to do it.
Yeah.
And let somebody raise to the occasion.
Oh man, you're a believer. I love it. That's great. You know, I can see the motivation for doing it. It's just wrong. It's just, you know no, I really can see the motivation in situations where I have watched that pan out. And I don't disagree that bringing somebody in from the outside is a high percentage failure situation.
There's no story there of how that person got there.
Yeah, and it can definitely erode your existing team who looks at the situation and says, why wasn't I selected? Now I got to report to somebody else. This is going to be, more pain for me. And it is true that times of flux are very high risk for losing people. So now not only may this new hire that you're bringing in suck, they also may blow out a few of your best employees, which would really suck. That's like the downside. But man, I'm sucking at arguing right now. 'Cause you've made a great case, man. You really have. And
I'm sensing a big butt. Go ahead.
yeah. So people crave leadership. And there are leaders out there. There are people who are cut out to do that job. And when you bring one in, man, and they land, and I'm not talking about authority, though that's a piece of it, right? I'm talking about all the things that we think about when we think about awesome leaders. When they land, the team falls right in. The team is like, wow, we finally got it, right? And what I found is that the people who leave are the toxic people. They're the ones who are like the people who roll out in that situation are the ones that should roll out in that situation. They're just not going to go where the company is going next. They may have been the right people at that time. They're not the right people in the new time. And I've watched that thing play out so many times. So for fear, Matt, for your fear of spooking your team and making people feel bad, you're going to suffer through years of terrible shit. Where if you just brought in somebody who's got it, they're going to fix the situation tomorrow, and you as the owner can go back to doing the things that you really need to be doing for the business.
So that is, I mean, it totally makes sense. I mean, it's hard to argue against having somebody come in and do that. But do they have to be an executive when they get there? Do they have to be vice president level?
It's a great question. It's sometimes so okay. Sometimes the answer is to get the right guy or gal. Yes, right. Sometimes to get the right human in that spot, the answer is going to be yes because they're currently at an executive level and they're not going to take a step back to come over to your company. They have their own career interests in mind, right? So you have to be careful about that type of thing too. But I like where you're going. I like where you're going. In general, I do think that there's maybe describe what you're picturing. So meet me halfway. What do you think?
Let's say it's a project management department, and the previous director of project management really wasn't doing much oversight. It was more title than anything. They were really just another project manager more than anything.
Yeah.
And that was why they were so poor as leaders. They weren't spending time with their people. And you have this opportunity to hire someone who is a senior project manager at an adjacent similar company, or maybe different, however.
Or how about a VP of project management? I've got an opportunity to hire a VP of project management.
Well, I think again, so the person from that other company is VP. So then it honestly, it comes down to perception, and I'm going to say selling the deal to them.
Right.
That's
packaging.
really what it. Yeah, exactly. Is this a true step up for them to go to your company versus the last one?
Yeah.
And if it is, then saying, hey, you got to earn it for a little while first.
Yep.
As a senior project manager, we're going to put as one of your key responsibility areas overseeing the project managers, or at least how would you, contributing to the growth and development of the project managers.
Right.
Maybe it's not the full responsibility for it, but you get some opportunity to step up in meetings and to start leading some agendas. Yep. All of that stuff where you're filling in the gaps.
Either way, you're trying to wade into it, and
the team starts to say, okay, this person's building up their credibility.
Yeah, I get you. I do. I really do get you. But I'll stand by my previous comment that if you have the right person, if you have somebody who is truly a leader in every sense,
Yeah.
they're gonna kill it. It's
Yeah.
gonna be great.
Yeah.
And you can stop. I've had this conversation before where people are like, well, I can't hire that from outside. And I'm like, tell me what you imagine happening. And they're like, people are going to revolt. They're going to do this. They're going to write. I'm going to have all these people. I'm going to feel bad. All the stuff that they sort of talk about doing. And I'm like, okay, all of this is it's presuming that the person you bring in can't handle that shit, right?
Totally.
If you're bringing in the right person, they can handle that. If you're bringing in the right person, this is somebody that when that stuff happens, you know me, right? Like when weird stuff happens, I get excited,
Sure.
right? I'm like,
Sure.
ooh.
That's true. It's very true. Time and
Like,
time again.
there's a big argument going on. I'm like, where? I'm gonna go in there and sort it out. This is gonna be fun, Like it's so the right person is turned on by this challenge.
Well, then you better get that person quickly integrated with whoever the most trusted or couple of trusted people are in that
Yes.
department, because I can promise you, and you know this, none of this is news to you, but if that leader has been such a poor leader for all that time, the one that you're letting
Yeah.
go and moving out of that role, they haven't been communicating the clear and compelling future.
Totally.
They haven't been making that person feel comfortable, seen, and heard. And even if you bring in that executive and they're the best person ever and they're totally fit for that role, if they don't have the context around what's been going on in the department for however long, you risk those people still leaving, even with a great manager that you bring in, because they just don't get the story.
Yep. And Matt, I do want to stress before we move off of this topic altogether, it is just the validity in the belief that it is better to grow your own. It is. It is so much better to grow your own. That is a way, way, way better long-term strategy for your business. So like if I could take a step back and I set the terms of the argument by picking a person that said, I have the current problem in a department, right?
Yeah.
But there's really a longer range game where your approach is 1000% the better approach. Is I don't have an immediate problem. I don't have a problem today. I'm trying to prevent future problems. I'm going to identify all my high potential people, and I'm going to start working on all of these talented individuals so that they're ready to step into leadership roles. And I don't have that problem. And if you're listening to this right now, please, for the love of God, do that. Because even in the scenario that we're currently talking about, this should be a realization that snaps you into saying, I better get something like this in action now.
Right.
Or I'm going to have this problem again.
Because people have predetermined beliefs about what it would be like to bring somebody in, even if they are the right person.
No, and when I prefaced it by saying it is a high likely failure, right? It fails a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It usually fails because people actually awesome leaders are pretty gainfully employed.
Yeah, they're pretty tough to find.
They're not looking for
they're usually good. Yeah.
Sometimes they are.
Yeah.
I don't mean to say that it's impossible and even but you get my point.
Right? I do. So. Yeah. Well, and since you got to hedge, I'll hedge too. Yeah. If you got to hire somebody and you're the owner and it's not the right position for you to be in and you got other growth goals and responsibilities you got to be paying attention to, then yeah, you probably got to hire that person. Yeah. But gosh darn it, you as the owner also better go talk to all those people, get an understanding of what's been going on, where they're feeling a deficit, and making sure that come to Jesus is happening with the new person too.
That's right. I agree. Nice term. Come to Jesus. I really want to picture. I really want to picture what a come to Jesus, like what was the first come to Jesus? Was it actually Jesus being like, come on over, pal? Was that what it was?
Oh my God. Pass. Maybe XVY.
Is this a new rule? No, we are not making rules about religion.
Yeah, that's a
rule
good
number
idea.
4.
Yes,
we're not making rules about religion.
No, oh my God,
we're not gonna have
that. Okay.
Okay, what are you reading, bud?
All right. Man, what a transition. I am reading Getting Things Done by David Allen. David Allen, which is a book about productivity and the art of stress-free productivity.
It's iconic. It is an iconic book. There's an entire world of GTDers out there who are
Yes.
obsessed with this.
Yes.
I actually almost hired a GTD coach like 10 years ago, and I didn't have the cash.
Wow. Did you really?
Yeah, it was like $11,000 for the day to have this person come, and
Wow.
I was like, would you take 8?
Wow.
Yeah, in the end, there was no.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Good
But
for,
I was
good
like,
for
this
him.
is what I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, fantastic book. All about, so far, what I've taken away from it is two things primarily. One, I had learned about inbox zero, but never from the man himself, kind of through the grapevine.
Yeah.
But the idea of skillfully keeping your inbox clean,
Yeah.
and utilizing a 2-minute rule of if things will take 2 minutes or less to do it then, and otherwise adding it to a tracking system. The second thing that has really been just like transformative for me is this concept of productivity and tracking as it has to do with stress. And
Yeah,
primarily
mind like water.
the idea, exactly, mind like water, which the idea that when you are home at 7 o'clock at night and that nagging thing pops into your brain that you need to do tomorrow, it is going to keep living there until you do that thing.
It's destructive.
And you'll wake up and you'll think about it, and in the morning you'll think, oh, I had to do that thing. What was that thing? Gosh darn it, I can't believe I can't remember that thing. And you're doing with this with stuff all the time.
That was all too real, by the way. I could see it in his eyes.
I forget stuff if I don't write it down
sad.
so fast. Oh my gosh. I asked my wife like 6 times in the last 7 days the name of our dentist. It's crazy. I couldn't remember. I finally wrote it down today. I got it. But anyway, and basically the point being that when that stuff comes up, if you don't have a system for effectively putting that task, to-do list, action into that system, then it will continue to just wreak havoc on your brain.
Yes.
So have a system, have a way that you process that system, and you'll be a lot less stressed and you'll be a lot more effective.
Yeah, I think that is a beautiful realization. And so I'll share with you that my only inbox really is my email. So I reduce everything down to email. And unfortunately, voicemail is not likely to be processed by me, which is literally even something that I say in my voicemail message, like, "Hey man, don't do this." I'm like, please, you're killing me, dude.
I kind of want to leave you a voicemail.
Yeah, enjoy.
Yeah, you're not going to listen to it.
Freaking hear
it. Yeah. Okay, that gives me some other ideas too.
I do get to them, but I just don't. I do get to them, but I don't get to them daily. But anyway, it is very frequent that, like, as I'm laying in bed, just before I go to sleep, I'm like, a thing, right? And where I used to like be like, shh, you just have to go to sleep. I roll over, I pound out the note to myself, just the thought that'll remind me. I send myself an email, and I'm like, right,
yeah,
like a baby. And I used to lay there and be like, go to sleep. You'll be okay. Go to sleep.
Yeah, fight it. Yeah,
it's just that realization that, like, your brain doesn't trust you.
Yeah,
your brain needs to know that there's a system.
Yeah,
that you're putting this in. You can't just be like, I'll remember. Your brain's like,
yeah,
no, you won't.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep this on your mind.
Yeah, you're gonna
relentlessly.
Be a mess. Yeah.
Watch this. I just took my kids to go see Inside Out 2.
Ooh, how was it?
It was so great. And one of the characters is Anxiety.
Yes,
and
that's the new character for this one.
Well, there's several new characters.
Oh, really?
Embarrassment's the best. Enjoy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
cool.
It's all really funny.
Cool.
Anyway, but it reminded me, of that little part of my brain that is trying to help me but hurting me.
Yeah, totally.
That's anxiety.
Totally.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
Great. What are you reading, Chad?
I am reading. It's a book called The Demon of Unrest.
Okay.
I had to look at the note because I can tell you what it's about, but it's a book called The Demon of Unrest.
Okay.
It is. It's by Eric Larson. He so I love, one of my favorite books is Devil in the White City.
Yeah.
It's so good. And if you're looking for, like, if this is a recommendation moment, read that book, not the one I'm reading now. Not that the one I'm reading now isn't good. It's good, but it's not Devil in the White City good. And it's hard, man.
That's so good. I need to read that.
When you're this historical author it's like a master of retelling historical stories with actual data and stuff like that. It's got to be difficult to strike the balance with entertainment and education, and being like authentic to exactly what went down. And for me, and I'm sure this is so subjective, but for me, in this book, The Devil of Unrest is about the time just leading up to Lincoln's inauguration.
Whoa.
It's a very zoomed in picture of like basically November election day to inauguration day.
Whoa.
It's really, really crazy to see the parallels. I'll just leave it at that.
Wow.
But to see some of those parallels, phenomenal. History is so good.
Yeah. So interesting.
It's so useful.
Yes.
It's like we've done all this stuff before.
We're not special. We just happen to only be 30, 40.
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
It's
We're
just,
like, wow.
Right.
We've done everything before. Humankind has done everything before. All the idiot, stupid things. There are stories that if we just learn, we'll be like, we're about to do that thing. Don't do that thing.
Yeah.
And it's just one of
but
those
Chad, this
moments.
time it's different.
So different, Matt. Like way different. Yeah. No, it's the same freaking thing. We're all just humans, and we're stuck in this pattern, right? And so anyway, great story. A lot of detail.
Got it.
I think because he's narrowed in on such a tight time period,
Yeah.
he's like, and Johnson walked in wearing his, customary watch with his blah, blah, blah. And you're like,
Yeah.
what it's we're talking about watches now. Like what happened? What happened in the meeting? And so anyway, that's my personal view, but he is a very rich storyteller, and it is brilliant. But I'm mixing in one of my pleasure books.
Love that
right now. So yeah.
Love that.
Yep. It's time for a pleasure book.
Good to have some balance.
Yeah. Well, and I'm about to go on vacation.
Yeah, that's right.
So I need a good pleasure book.
Nice.
So, and this one's like, plenty long. It'll occupy my time in the evenings as I wind down perfectly.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Good for you.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Good for you.
Matt, I think we did it.
We did it. We're about an hour. We cussed.
I really took some liberties with the swearing rule.
Yeah,
today.
yeah. The whole douchebag thing was surprising, but you know what?
Hey,
it kind of landed. Yeah, it felt
right in the kiss.
Yeah. No bosses that are douchebags, but got it. Yeah, and I'm just saying it now to be what's the word? That way we get to both be in this together.
Yeah.
I'm an accomplice now.
I appreciate.
I'm an accomplice.
That's yes. You've also committed the crime.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, everybody, for continuing to join us and help to keep what we're doing relevant. We'd love to hear from you. Anything that you'd like to share that you love, that you're not loving, topics that you wish we would tackle, XVYs that you wish we would have, and for the love of God, buy the book.
Just buy the book. No, thank you guys so much. You guys are the best. Talk to you soon.